The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Okay, welcome back. Here we are taking a second look at a debate on review over the N-word and its appropriate use, or lack thereof. There are really two positions being argued here. The first being the N-word should never be used by anybody ever. It is so filled with anger and hatred and has such a painful past, it should both be figuratively and literally buried, never to be used again. The second position is that the N-word can be used but only by black people. The idea being that the N-word has been taken over and transformed and only can be used in black culture.
Bad. It's not a word that should be used. I think it's...
Don't tell me I can't use that word. Because I use it.
How is it? So you're telling me I can't use it?
It's not the same as when I use it.
Shelley Shepard takes great offense to the idea she shouldn't be allowed to use this word. She feels it's her right to use the word at her discretion with her friends and family. Chris Rock gave his insight on this during an interview with James Lipton.
It's like, explain nigger, go ahead. I'm the wrong guy to explain nigger, even though some would call me a niggerologist, but it's the same philosophy as soul food. They gave us the scraps and we made it into cuisine. And we took this word and we made it into poetry. You know what I mean? It's horrible, but you put some sauce on it and now it's poetry. Nigger is the nitroglycerin of words, and in the wrong hands it can hurt. But if you give it to the right scientists, a Dave Chappelle, a Ice Cube, a Eddie Murphy, what they did, what NWA and Richard Pryor did with the word nigger is just, it's art, it's Mark Twain.
Elizabeth, could I just ask a question? Is it, and what you're saying, is it okay for black comics primarily, like yourself, and when you do an act and so forth, is it okay then to use it as it is still done, and not okay for white people? Is that the case?
Yeah, I have no problem with them using it. It's something that means something way different to me than it does to you. I grew up with my family using it. For me, I can use it as a term of endearment.
But if I used it,
I don't want to hear it come out of your mouth.
I just think, how do you, okay, so wait a minute, let's think about this. Here's how I think things can be simplified sometimes. How do you teach children, okay? We should be acting. We're trying to teach our kids certain things in this world, no? So then, are we acting out on what we're actually preaching them? Am I supposed to tell Grace, okay, here are some words you can use, here are some words you cannot, and then, but your friend over there can use it because...
So, Chris Rock and Shelley Shepard are saying they have taken ownership of the word and turned the negative into a positive, and therefore should be allowed to use the word. This word is a source of pride for them and is a part of their culture. Elizabeth Hasselbeck is saying, how am I supposed to explain to a child that this group of people can use this word and that group can't? And by implication, how can I explain the virtues of equality to my child while saying different groups have different restrictions? Here is a piece written by Bill Cosby and read by Tim Russert saying the word should never be used under any circumstances.
Let me ask about that, excuse me, because you write about gangster rap in your book, and this is from page 144. Let's look at it. The gangster rap promotes the widespread use of the N-word to sell CDs among people of all ethnic groups. In fact, the audience for gangster rap is made up predominantly of white youth who get a vicarious thrill from participating in a black thug fantasy, including the degradation of women. Black youth, as well as some misguided adults, have defended the use of the N-word, suggesting they are somehow making it a positive term. Don't fall for that nonsense. The N-word is a vile symbol of our oppression by slave masters.
Now, listen to how Hasselbeck and Goldberg use ancestry to strengthen their case. Hasselbeck refers to her own ethnic background and the offense she would take to ethnic slurs referring to her heritage, and therefore no one should be allowed to use any of these terms because they are offensive and separate people. Whoopi Goldberg uses her ancestry as a justification to use the word because what started out as a slur has taken on a different meaning and has been embraced by her culture and is a right that should be afforded to her.
I'm not saying I don't know how to explain to my daughter how to talk about words. I grew up in a household where we didn't say, I'm half Polish and half Italian.
Right.
If somebody said to me, you're a dumb Polak, it offended me. I would never make fun of myself saying, you're that word.
No,
I'm
say,
this.
right.
I never would go into my own heritage and use a phrase that is used against me in the privacy of my own home, because I think it perpetuates stereotypes and hate.
You have to understand word that has followed us around, and basically what we did is we took it out of the hands of the people who were using it and put it into our hands, and we use it the way we want to use it, and that's what it is.
Hard when it sneaks into pop culture then.
No, it's not. Yeah.
I'm trying to get an answer.
You did. You're not listening. You're just talking. Everybody's getting. She is saying it's okay in her culture.
I think what this discussion really underscores are two different world views on how to deal with race and how to approach the healing process for the deep divides that still exist in our culture. The first view is that we are all essentially the same. No one should use the N-word because it divides people, and underneath we are all the same, so we should discourage anything that separates us. Race is a social construct that has no inherent meaning, so it should be disregarded. The ideal would be to live in a colorblind society. The second point of view is that we should embrace our differences. Black people should be allowed to use the N-word because it is something that is reserved for their culture. And the fact that they turned around the meaning of that word and use it constructively is a source of pride and should not be denied to them. Though, no one outside the race may use it.
My thing is that we don't live in different worlds. We live in the same world.
We do live in different worlds. I'm sorry.
Well, you know
I'm
what?
sorry. It's the way it is, Elizabeth. This is the way it is. This is how I grew up. My mother could not go and vote in the United States of America, the place of her birth. Yes, we would like to, but you don't understand. I want you to, but what I need you to understand is the frustration that goes along with when you say we live in the same world. It isn't balanced, and we would like it to be, but you have to understand, you have to listen to the fact that we're telling you there are issues, there are huge problems that still affect us, and you've got to know this if you want to know us.
I understand that. I'm not
but
trying
it didn't sound like it.
I am not trying to take that away from you. When we are living in this world, and we are living in a world where there is, in the pop culture,
yes.
When we live in a world where pop culture then uses that term, and we're trying to get to a place where we feel like we're in the same place, where we feel like we're in the same world, how are we supposed to then move forward if we keep using terms that bring back that pain?
I can tell you.
Of course, there is a third, more subtle point of view, which is hinted at by Whoopi Goldberg at one point during the conversation, which is the N-word can be used by anybody depending on context.
But Elizabeth, as I said at the beginning when we first talked about this word, this is a word that has meaning when you give it meaning. You can try it, just like you can talk about... listen to me. Just like you can talk about comical Italian people if you were a comic. So you could say all kinds of stuff. You could say the stuff that your mom and dad would say in the privacy of their home and not outside. That's just the way that it works.
Here, she gives Hasselbeck license to try to use the word, but at her own peril. In other words, a white person can use the N-word just as a non-Italian comedian might make fun of stereotypical Italian Americans without consequence. But if it's taken the wrong way, they'll have to deal with the fallout. This is a complicated issue with a wide range of views, but it's an important conversation to have. As always, I look forward to your comments and suggestions, and I'll see you next time when we take a second look